funding network of the Abrahamics and Leftists. I say Abrahamics because the conflict in India seems to be between a set of combined global arch rivals, the Christians and the Muslims, against the Hindus, ably supported by the leftists. Before I speak on this topic, what needs to be realized is that this anti-Hindu event, which is being co-sponsored by 50 plus universities, has in the poster depicted an RSS member being uprooted with a claw hammer. This actually is highly symbolic on two aspects. One, who is protecting this Hindu nation, and the second, who is really interested in uprooting these forces. There's a lot of messaging that has happened in that poster. So let us get into a brief history of these three forces, which seems to have ganged up against the Hindus. The combined Abrahamics, I mean both Christians and Muslims, and the communists, a perfect concoction to the method to this madness. For the benefit of this conversation, let me give a brief about all the three forces. The Abrahamics, both these are exclusive religions, roughly dating 2000 years ago. Both have had a violent past, don't see eye to eye, and have fought numerous bloody wars for the simple reason of proving who is better than who. For example, the Christians, the Crusades of the Church was an open war against the Muslims. It was a vigorous campaign for political, religious, and economic supremacy, popularly known as the Holy War. It's a pure contradiction to the concept of religion itself. Both are fundamentalist and are engaged in hate speech, other theology that tends to be ultra-conservative, fundamentalistic, and highly intolerant. These two religions have always viewed each other suspiciously and put the fear of hell on each other for not believing in their framework of religion. So that was a brief about Christians and Muslims. Now let's talk about communism. Let me start by a popular quote of Karl Marx, who is the father of communism. He had said that religion is the opium of the people. Communism hates and alienates religion from its philosophy. Let me give an account of mass murders in Russia itself during the communist regime. Approximately 15 million Christians were killed between 1920 and 1950. And I also understand through history, close to 5 million Christians vanished in those 30 years. The Soviet Union also has targeted the Muslims and the Buddhist monks. As a state, communism clearly distanced itself from religion. Given the background of these three distinctly different ideologies, what is strange in the Indian context is that these three forces have metamorphosed and come together targeting Hindus. Different equations in different geographical areas. It appears that when it comes to India and the Hindus, they forget their distinct differences and are married to each other. As far as the church is concerned, it appears that they do not have a fixed ideology, but can mutate as per the circumstances. Its permanent goal is political power, God-centered religion. The lessons that needs to be learned are that all three are equally dangerous. Now, to connect the dots, we are 1 billion plus people and the only civilization that has stood its test of time. numerous invasions, our wealth plundered, and we still have stood steadfast. This, I feel, is the biggest threat to the global forces. Perhaps the only binding factor is the diverse nature of Hinduism. The only way to break this unity and dismantle this civilization is to attack the forces that keep this nation united. It has been time and again echoed in several Western media, and of course Pakistan, that the greatest threat to India is the RSS. Strangely, these nations are talking about a threat not to them but on us, a nation where they don't reside. I was really amused when the RSS is being compared to notorious militant organizations which have actually indulged in large-scale violence and genocide. Now let's talk a little about the need for these forces to combine and organize an event which normally should not concern them. Our take should be that they are unable to digest the fact that with all these diversities, India still has almost remained united. There seems to be a greater awareness and a Hindu consciousness. A lot of false teachings which were there in our history books have been rubbished after this generation managed to discover the truth. This is what these anti-Hindu forces are unable to digest. India used to be a below poverty line nation 100 years back, and today has become an economic and military contender. They are unable to digest the fact. They are unable to get a race of people who have challenged their false teachings. So, among the repeated attempts to destabilize the nation, this is another such ploy to break India. While these forces have spread far and wide, my calculation is that Pakistan, which lost miserably in the 1970s war, hatched a ploy to destroy India by its military doctrine, Bleed India by 1,000 cuts. In fact, I remember Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, who is the former Prime Minister of Pakistan, had declared a 1,000-year war against India. So there is nothing wrong in connecting the dots that all these forces seem to sing the same song when it comes to India. Who knows, it could be orchestrated by Pakistan. As far as fundings are concerned, there are several forces working in tandem to execute the hate India policy. For the Abrahamic religions, it's a pious responsibility to facilitate propagation of their faith. Funding is part of their religious obligation. Many a times, those who donate don't even know where their contribution is finally used. The Christian missionaries today are heavily funded by the West. Most of these funds come through several so-called peaceful channels. These funds are used to brainwash the gullible. One of our esteemed speakers spoke the involvement of the church and the missionaries to create unrest among the tribals. Obviously, these activities are funded by the evangelicals wanting a share of the Indian pie. On the other hand, the jihadi movement itself is manifesting in several forms. One of our esteemed speakers spoke about the Halal Enterprise. Did we ever realize that right under our feet, the carpet has been removed? Almost everyone in this country who consumes meat innocently demands or are forced to consume halal meat. So what does it mean? Halal is nothing but monopolizing goods and services. It's a strong notion that halal is limited only to meat. I would recommend everyone to check out the Halal Portal, halalindia.co.in. It covers restaurants, tourism, medical tourism, makeup brand, hospitals, and whatnot. So, do we even know that what all these means and where does a certain part of the fund go into? Today, an average Indian also contributes to the halal industry without even knowing that they are funding their own destruction. On the whole, this global event has actually posed a lot of questions to the Hindu community at large. Let us understand that Hinduism and Hindutva go hand in hand and are inseparable. In the present context, one cannot survive without the other. So I would say it's a blessing in disguise for our nation to wake up from its deep slumber to recognize the clear present and future danger posed by these forces. Thank you.